Wisconsin I is in Oshkosh at the State Democratic Party Convention. We're interviewing Randy Bryce. He's a Democratic candidate in the 1st Congressional District. Randy, thanks for sitting down with Wisconsin I.
A pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you.
We haven't had a chance to interview you yet, and we'll be doing formal candidate interviews in a few weeks leading up to the primary, because I think you'll have a primary opponent.
Yes.
Fair statement?
Yes.
Ms. Myers? Okay.
Yes.
So give us an overview of where you're from, what you've been doing, and then we'll get to why you're running and just some of your main issues. Let's keep it fairly short this time.
Okay. I've been a union iron worker for the past 21 years. Southeast Wisconsin, born and raised here.
You live where?
In Caledonia, Wisconsin.
Caledonia.
Right
Okay.
now, just outside of Racine. And I've been very involved politically since Scott Walker was elected. Dealing with labor issues, with veteran issues as well are very important to me. I spent 3 years in the service, attended public schools, and then I went in the Army. Came back, worked with homeless veterans, was my first job, and then ended up doing what many of us do when we get back from the service, just finding whatever we can to work. Mm-hmm. I had 2 full-time jobs, didn't have insurance, and during that time I was diagnosed with cancer. It proved them wrong when they told me I probably wouldn't be able to have children after the surgery. But then after I recovered from that, I found my way into the apprenticeship through the Ironworkers Union. And that was my ticket to the middle class. And again, I've been doing that for 21 years now.
The first time I interview somebody, I ask this question: why are you a Democrat?
Because Democrats have been standing up for working people in Wisconsin. I've been taking off of work ever since Act 10 in order to fight against the legislation that's being literally rammed down our throats. And whether it's project labor agreements being taken away, prevailing wage disappearing, issues that affect my ability to make a livelihood. And it's not just myself, but unions are, the last shield of defense for working people.
Now, you just referred to Act 10. That's a state issue. You're running for federal office.
Correct.
Have you run for anything before?
I run for state assembly, state senate in the past after Act 10, and as a result of increasing my activism. I had been asked to run for the seats. They were in very heavily gerrymandered districts that I ran, but it was still going and knocking on doors. I knew it was a very uphill battle, and what the results might have been, but still it was helping other candidates that were on the ballot as well.
Now, you announced before Speaker Ryan announced that he would not seek another term.
Right.
So you had made a decision to run against an incumbent who's the Speaker of the House, who raised $54 million last year for his party. Why did you decide to try to climb a mountain that high?
Because, just my nature. I mean, as an iron worker, we do things that people often say is, on the verge of being impossible. And I've never been one to quit or back down from a fight when I felt I was in the right and things needed to be taken on. And so last year at this time, I was working on a construction site. We were building a parking structure at the VA and saw that Paul Ryan was trying to take away our health care and trying to repeal and replace our health care. So talking with the other people on the job, I was like, well, why don't we try to repeal and replace him? It just wasn't right. Too many people need things that we've fought so hard for, where the pre-existing conditions. I mean, myself being a cancer survivor and having to deal with the bills that came about from that. My mom has MS, my dad has Alzheimer's, and I have a son to worry about, making sure that he's covered with insurance on a daily basis. So these were things, and I saw that even though I had taken off of work to go testify, been involved with the protests and job actions, I saw that wasn't enough to change where we were headed. You have to actually run for office and be the one to cast the votes.
How has the dynamics of this race changed since Speaker Ryan announced he will not be seeking re-election for you?
Well, it's no longer seen as like a David versus Goliath type issue, but the fact is that we got into this race because we wanted to repeal and replace Paul Ryan. We have too many millionaires in Congress right now. Over 50% of them are millionaires. And we weren't people weren't listening to us, to working people when I say us. And so while the face has changed, I mean, the person that's going to come in, the front runner, is somebody that was a staffer for Paul Ryan, used to drive him around, and a corporate attorney. He's claiming he was a manufacturer, but he was lead counsel for a company that shut its doors and sent hundreds of jobs to Mexico. And we don't need more of that in Washington, D.C. So I know what it's like to struggle. in the first district. And there's nothing going on in Washington, D.C. that's rougher than what people are going through in the first district.
Senator Bernie Sanders came in and endorsed you.
Yes.
That a good thing?
It's a great thing. I was asked to speak at his rally when he was running for president in 2016. I was on a construction site taking lunch when I got the phone call. And part of the conversation from him was, do you know of any job actions? Are there picket lines or anything? So here's somebody running for president that was looking for a picket line to walk. That meant a lot to me, especially with what Wisconsin has gone through. And Bernie Sanders, I mean, he won 71 out of 72 counties in Wisconsin during the primary. He's very popular in the first district. And absolutely, we're building a coalition, getting help from wherever we could, because it is the Speaker of the House that we took on. So we're going to need help from everywhere.
Wasai will do a longer, specific, issue-based interview with you closer to the primary. But let me ask this question. Give me the overview of your top 3 issues, please.
Definitely number 1 is health care, because it affects everybody, regardless. It's an intergenerational issue. Then next would come protecting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, because after this last tax scam, we were told that now, $1.5 trillion given away to people that don't need $1.5 trillion. Now we're told we can't afford things like that. We can. The fact is that we can. So protecting those issues is extremely important. And also jobs. I mean, driving here, our infrastructure is crumbling. And being a union iron worker, and that's how I made my living for the past 21 years, union apprenticeships are the best kept secret right now. And they don't use any tax money. And we take people off the streets, get training, and you don't have any college loans to repay once you're done. And that trains you for a career that you can take anywhere within North America.
Given that you've been an active Democrat for a few years, how is this atmosphere different? Are you willing to use the W word? Is there going to be a blue wave?
Absolutely there is. And we've seen it in Wisconsin already. Just the last nonpartisan election where Rebecca Dallett won, fighting against the big Republican money. That was a huge victory, as well as the special election for Senate District 10 up north, which had been traditionally Republican. And then seeing Governor Walker not want to have a special elections for the state assembly seat and the state senate seat. It says everything. So definitely coming, but we have to make sure the enthusiasm stays there and that we keep it going on through November.
2 final questions. Tell me what you've learned about the first district now that you're formally going around and campaigning.
Hardworking people that are just, I can't tell you how grateful they are to be listened to now, because it had been over 2 years since Paul Ryan had any kind of public town hall. They're really excited about having somebody go to Washington, D.C. that actually understands what their day-to-day struggles are.
And then the final question, how much of your campaign is going to be about who's going to be the Republican nominee and President Trump? Are they yoked together, lashed together?
No, well, this race is about what I'm going to bring for working people, because I understand them. And it's not necessarily going, against something, but it's about standing up for what I'm for.
Okay, understand. Well, Randy Bryce, Democratic candidate in the 1st District, thanks for stopping in to introduce yourselves, and we'll talk again closer to the primary election.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.